The Laugh Before the Storm, March 26, 1943, Western Pacific Ocean. 18,000 feet above the water, the Japanese pilot laughs, not loudly, not carelessly, just a short, confident breath through the nose as he tilts his Zero into a gentle turn. Below him, the ocean is calm and endless. Above, the sun glints off his canopy, warm and familiar. Ahead, climbing clumsily through broken cloud, is an American fighter he has never taken seriously. It looks wrong, too wide, too heavy. The wings are thick, the fuselage bulky, nothing like the elegant lines of the Zero. It moves like it's dragging the sky behind it. Hellcat, someone had called it during briefing. The pilot barely remembers the name. He has over 600 flight hours. He has survived Guadalcanal. He has watched American pilots panic, stall, burn. He has outturned them, outclimbed them, outflown them. This will be no different. He pushes the throttle forward and rolls in. The Zero responds instantly, light and alive, slicing toward the American plane with practiced grace. This is what he was trained for. This is what Japan built him to do. But the American doesn't turn. It doesn't try to dance. It doesn't try to impress. Instead, it keeps coming, straight, fast, heavy. The Japanese pilot frowns for the first time. At this speed, the American should not be able to climb. At this angle, it should bleed energy. At this distance, it should already be breaking away. It doesn't. The Hellcat surges forward, engine roaring like nothing the Zero has ever faced. The distance collapses faster than expected. Too fast. The pilot pulls harder on the stick. The Zero responds, but slower than it should. For the first time in the war, the Japanese pilot feels something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Not fear, uncertainty. A stream of .50 caliber tracers slices past his canopy, bright and violent. The airframe shudders. One round punches through the wing root. Another tears through the fuselage behind him. The Hellcat flashes past, already climbing away. The Japanese pilot stares after it, stunned. That American plane didn't fight like the others. It didn't try to outturn him. It didn't care about elegance. It fought like it knew something he didn't. And in that brief moment, before he banks away, before the smoke thickens, one truth begins to form, cold and undeniable. The Americans have stopped trying to beat the Zero at its own game. They have built something else, something designed not to compete, but to end this war in the sky. Why the Zero ruled the sky, December 7, 1941, over Pearl Harbor. 7:05 a.m. The Zero arrives first. It slips through the morning sky like a blade, low and fast, its engine note sharp and confident. Below, the harbor is still waking up. Battleships sit at anchor. American sailors look up too late. The Mitsubishi A6M Zero was never meant to fight fair. Its designers built it with one obsession, range and agility. No armor, no self-sealing fuel tanks, nothing unnecessary. Every kilogram saved meant tighter turns, longer reach, more time over the battlefield. And it showed. As bombs fall on Pearl Harbor, Zeros dance above the chaos. They turn inside American fighters with ease. They climb faster. They stay airborne longer. Pilots trained in strict discipline execute attacks with surgical precision. In the months that follow, the Zero becomes a ghost story. Over the Philippines, over Malaya, over the Dutch East Indies, American and Allied pilots learn the same lesson again and again. If you try to turn with it, you die. By early 1942, the Zero owns the sky. Japanese pilots know it. American pilots feel it. Veterans of the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service are among the most experienced aviators in the world. Many have been flying since China. Some have thousands of hours. They are not reckless. They are professionals, and they are untouchable. In dogfight after dogfight, Zeros circle effortlessly around heavier American planes. Wildcats stall, buffaloes burn, P-40s dive away, praying speed will save them. The Zero doesn't chase recklessly. It waits, it climbs, it turns, it chooses when to kill. American pilots begin to develop rituals of survival. Never turn left, never climb after a Zero. Dive if you can, run if you must. Even then, many don't make it back. Japanese pilots laugh, not cruelly, but confidently. They have earned it. Their aircraft does exactly what it was built to do. In briefings, the Zero is spoken of with pride. It can reach targets no other fighter can. It can escort bombers hundreds of miles out and still fight on the return. It can outmaneuver anything in the American inventory. And perhaps most dangerously, it feels alive. Pilots describe it as an extension of the body. A thought becomes motion. A pull becomes a turn no one else can match. But the Zero's dominance comes at a price. One Japanese mechanic notices it first, then another. The Zero bleeds when hit. Fuel ignites easily. Wings shear off under heavy fire. But those weaknesses don't matter yet. Because in 1941 and 1942, American pilots rarely get the chance to exploit them. The Zero dictates the fight, and that shapes everything. Japanese training doctrine reinforces individual skill, dogfighting, precision, experience. Victory comes from outflying the enemy, not outproducing him. America, meanwhile, is still learning how to survive. Factories scramble to improve existing fighters. Pilots learn hard lessons in blood. Tactics evolve slowly, painfully. To Japanese aviators watching this unfold, the conclusion feels obvious. America doesn't understand air combat. Their planes are too heavy, too slow, too clumsy. Built by engineers who have never fought in the sky. So when reports arrive in early 1943 of a new American fighter entering service, bigger than anything before, heavier than the Wildcat, Japanese pilots dismiss it instinctively. Another brute, another mistake, another aircraft that will try to turn and die. They don't yet understand that the Americans have stopped trying to copy the Zero. They are about to learn what happens when a nation stops chasing elegance and starts building for war. America builds a different kind of fighter mid-1942. Bethpage, Long Island, Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation. The factory floor shakes as another engine is tested. It is loud, deeper than anything that has flown before it. Not the sharp snarl of a lightweight fighter, but a heavy, relentless roar that vibrates through steel beams and concrete. Men shout to be heard over it. Clipboards are pressed to chests. Rivet guns chatter without pause. This aircraft is not being designed to impress pilots. It is being designed to survive them. After months of losses in the Pacific, the U.S. Navy has reached a blunt conclusion. Trying to outturn the Zero is suicide. Every report says the same thing. The Japanese fighter is too light, too agile, too experienced in the hands of its pilots. So the Navy gives Grumman a different order. Don't beat the Zero at what it does best. Build something that makes its strengths irrelevant. Engineers start with power. A massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp, 2,000 horsepower, far more than the Zero could ever handle. The engine alone weighs nearly as much as some Japanese aircraft components combined. Then armor. Real armor. A protected cockpit. Bullet-resistant glass. Self-sealing fuel tanks. Things Japanese designers had discarded to save weight. Then weapons. 6 50 caliber machine guns. Not 2, not 4, 6, each capable of tearing through aluminum skin at long range. And finally, structure. Thick wings, reinforced spars, a fuselage designed to absorb damage and keep flying. When test pilots first climb into the cockpit, they feel it immediately. This is no dancer, this is a brawler. One pilot famously describes it as flying a truck. The nickname sticks, Hellcat. The Hellcat does not whisper through the sky, it muscles its way through it. On paper, it looks inferior, heavier, less nimble, slower in a turn. Everything Japanese pilots think defines a good fighter. But the Americans are not building a duelist, they are building a hunter. Flight tests reveal something unexpected. At high speed, the Hellcat dives like a stone and climbs back up with brutal efficiency. At altitude, its engine keeps pulling when others fade. In a straight line, it is devastatingly fast, and most importantly, it can take punishment. Test pilots bring aircraft back riddled with holes that would have turned a Zero into a fireball. Fuel tanks seal. Controls respond. Engines keep running. The philosophy is simple and cold. Pilots are harder to replace than airplanes. Airplanes should protect pilots, not the other way around. While Japanese doctrine still focuses on elite aviators and perfect maneuvering, American doctrine shifts towards something else entirely: consistency. Average pilots flying survivable aircraft, standardized tactics, repeatable victories. By late 1942, Hellcats begin reaching frontline squadrons. They are rushed onto carriers still smelling of fresh paint. Mechanics crawl over them obsessively. Pilots are briefed with new rules. Never turn with a Zero. Use speed. Use altitude. Hit hard. Climb away. The Hellcat is not there to dance. It is there to decide. Japanese intelligence hears about the new fighter. Reports mention its size, its weight, its lack of elegance. Pilots scoff. Too heavy, too slow, too American. They assume it will behave like every American fighter before it, try to turn, fail, and burn. They do not yet understand that the Hellcat was built by people who studied their victories carefully and decided not to repeat their mistakes. When the two aircraft finally meet in numbers, it will not look like a duel. It will look like a correction. 1943. The sky changes. August 31st, 1943. Near Marcus Island, Western Pacific. The first sign is confusion. Japanese radar operators report American fighters approaching at altitude higher than expected. Carrier groups scramble Zeros as they always have. Veteran pilots climb confidently, engines straining as the lightweight fighters spiral upward. They expect the usual pattern. They don't get it. The Hellcats arrive in formation. Not scattered, not eager. They hold altitude, engines roaring steadily, sunlight flashing off thick wings and armored canopies. They don't dive immediately. They don't break formation. They wait. When they attack, it is sudden and violent. Hellcats drop out of the sun in steep dives, speed building rapidly. Zeros try to react, pulling into tight turns, but the geometry is wrong. The Americans aren't turning with them. They're slashing through, firing from distance, then climbing away before the Zeros can respond. One Japanese pilot squeezes his trigger, tracers arcing harmlessly behind a Hellcat already accelerating out of range. It doesn't slow, it doesn't wobble, it doesn't burn. It climbs. For the first time, Japanese pilots feel like they are chasing ghosts. Radio chatter spikes. Short, sharp bursts of confusion. Orders overlap. Pilots call out contacts that vanish seconds later. The Hellcats are not fighting individually. They are fighting as a system. A Zero manages to get hits on one Hellcat's wing. Fuel sprays, but the tank seals. The American pilot doesn't even break off immediately. He keeps his line, fires a burst, then climbs calmly away. The Zero he fires at doesn't. Aluminum skin shreds under 6 converging. 50 caliber guns. The Japanese fighter erupts into flame, falling in a spiral toward the ocean. The kill is clean, fast, impersonal. The Japanese formation breaks instinctively, pilots reverting to individual maneuvering, tight turns, desperate climbs, classic tactics that had carried them through 2 years of dominance. They no longer work. The Hellcats don't follow into the turn. They wait above, watching energy bleed away, then strike again. Dive, fire, climb, dive, fire, climb. By the time the surviving Zeros disengage, the sky feels different, empty, hostile. Back on the carriers, pilots remove helmets in silence. Mechanics listen as reports come in. Losses higher than expected. No decisive engagement, no prolonged dogfights, just sudden death from above. Word spreads quickly through the Imperial Navy Air Service. This American fighter does not fight like the others. It does not respect the Zero. In subsequent engagements, the pattern repeats. Over Rabaul, over the Gilberts, over the Marshalls. Where Hellcats appear in numbers, Japanese losses spike sharply. Experienced pilots begin to die. Not in heroic turning battles, but in brief, brutal encounters where their skill never has time to matter. One veteran ace, shot down after a single pass, later writes in his diary that the enemy fighter did not seem to fear us. That sentence circulates quietly. Fear had always been Japan's advantage. Now it is gone. By the end of 1943, the statistics become impossible to ignore. Squadrons report kill ratios no one would have believed a year earlier. 10-1, 12-1. In some engagements, even higher. The Zero still turns better. It always will. But the sky no longer belongs to the best turner. It belongs to the aircraft that controls speed, altitude, and survival. And the Hellcat controls all three. Japanese pilots stop laughing. They stop mocking the shape, The size, the weight. Now, when Hellcats appear overhead, they tighten straps, check fuel, and wonder quietly whether this sortie will be their last. The balance of air power has shifted, not dramatically, not overnight, but decisively. The Zero is no longer hunting, it is being hunted. The kill ratio. Nobody could ignore October 1943. Aboard USS Essex, Philippine Sea, the numbers arrive quietly, typed, tabulated, filed. They don't look dramatic on paper rows of dates, aircraft types, losses, claims. But to the men reading them, the meaning is unmistakable. Something has broken. After each sortie, intelligence officers gather reports from returning pilots. They compare gun camera footage, radio transcripts, wreckage sightings. The process is meticulous, conservative, and yet the conclusion remains the same. For every Hellcat lost, multiple Zeros are not coming back. At first, commanders assume it's coincidence. A good week, favorable conditions, surprise. Then it keeps happening. In squadron ready rooms, pilots begin to talk openly about it. Not with bravado, but with a kind of disbelief. Men who had barely survived Guadalcanal are now returning with confirmed kills. Some with 2, some with 3 in a single mission. They are not aces, they are average pilots, and that is what frightens the enemy most. Across the Pacific, Japanese intelligence officers struggle to reconcile the reports. They know their pilots are skilled, they know the Zero's specifications. The math doesn't make sense until they factor in something new. Survivability. Hellcats come back riddled with holes, wings chewed, fuselages torn, canopies cracked. Mechanics patch them, replace panels, refuel, and send them back out. Zeros do not come back. A single 50 caliber burst is often enough. Fuel ignites, control surfaces fail. The lightness that once gave the Zero its edge now turns lethal. Japanese commanders begin to notice a chilling pattern. When veteran pilots encounter Hellcats, they die at nearly the same rate as newer ones. Experience no longer protects. Skill no longer guarantees survival. One engagement after another reinforces the truth. The Hellcat does not need to win a dogfight. It only needs to force one mistake, and the Zero, bleeding energy and tight turns, eventually always makes one. By late 1943, the cumulative kill ratio becomes undeniable. In some theaters, Hellcats are achieving ratios exceeding 10-1, in others, even higher. This is not air combat as Japan understands it. This is industrialized destruction. Every loss hurts Japan more than the last. Training pipelines are slow. Fuel is scarce. Veteran pilots cannot be replaced. America, by contrast, keeps rotating in fresh squadrons. New aircraft, new pilots, same tactics. The sky is becoming predictable. Japanese pilots begin to alter their behavior. They avoid engagement when Hellcats are present. They break off early. They conserve fuel. These are defensive instincts. They are losing the initiative. One American pilot writes home that fighting the Zero no longer feels like a duel. It feels like we're clearing the sky, he says. Clear it they do. By the end of the year, the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service is no longer elite. It is depleted. Not because its pilots forgot how to fly, but because they were never given a machine designed to let them live. The Hellcat's greatest weapon is not speed, not firepower, not armor. It is the math of replacement. And the math no longer favors Japan. Experience dies first. February 1944, Truck Lagoon, Central Pacific. The veteran pilots go up first. They always do. Men with years of flight time, with notebooks full of victories, with instincts sharpened over China, Pearl Harbor, and Guadalcanal. When American carrier strikes are detected, these pilots are launched to meet them. Not the trainees, not the inexperienced. Japan cannot afford to lose its best. That decision seals their fate. As Hellcats swarm into the airspace above Truck, the pattern repeats with merciless consistency. The Japanese aces climb aggressively, eager to engage before the Americans can organize. It is the same instinct that once brought them victory after victory. Now, it brings them into the Hellcats' preferred envelope. The Americans do not chase, they do not scatter. They hold altitude and speed, attacking only when the geometry is perfect. Each pass is brief, each burst precise, each escape deliberate. A Japanese ace pulls into a hard turn, muscles straining, aircraft shuddering at the edge of its limits. Years of training scream that this is how you survive. The Hellcat does not follow. It waits. As the Zero slows, bleeding energy, another Hellcat dives from above. The burst is short. The Zero's wing tears away. The pilot never sees it coming. This is how the best die. Not gloriously, not after long duels, but quickly caught in habits that once made them untouchable. Within weeks, Japanese squadrons begin to notice the absence. Familiar voices disappear from the radio. Call signs go unanswered. Briefing rooms feel quieter, emptier. Those losses are irreplaceable. Japan's training pipeline cannot produce pilots fast enough. Fuel shortages limit flight hours. New pilots arrive with a fraction of the experience their predecessors had, sometimes less than 100 hours before combat. They face Hellcats flown by pilots with standardized training, backed by gun cameras, radio coordination, and doctrine refined through brutal trial. The imbalance is catastrophic. In one engagement after another, the pattern repeats. The experienced pilots die first. The inexperienced follow. The Zero's greatest strength, its elite pilots, becomes its greatest vulnerability. American commanders notice it too. After-action reports begin to mention a decline in Japanese tactics. Attacks are less coordinated. Formations break sooner. Pilots disengage earlier. Fear has entered the cockpit. And fear, once introduced, spreads faster than any aircraft. By mid-1944, Japanese pilots are being told to avoid Hellcats whenever possible. Engage only under favorable conditions. Preserve aircraft. Preserve pilots. But favorable conditions are increasingly rare. Hellcats dominate the climb. They dominate the dive. They dictate when and where combat happens. The Zero is no longer a predator. It is prey. One Japanese pilot later recalls that by 1944, flying against Hellcats felt like waiting for the moment you would be seen. Seen meant attacked. Attacked meant dead. Experience, once Japan's most valuable asset, has been burned away in the thin air above the Pacific. What remains is a hollow force, still brave, still determined, but stripped of the men who once made it formidable. The sky has become an American domain, and for Japan, there is no path back. Factories versus funerals, June 1944, mainland United States. Early morning, the factory does not slow down. Inside a vast Grumman assembly plant, Hellcats move forward inch by inch along the line. Bare aluminum skins are riveted into place. Engines are lowered by crane with practiced precision. Wiring is threaded, tested, secured. Men work in shifts, then are replaced by fresh hands without ceremony. Outside, finished aircraft wait in neat rows, wings folded, paint still clean. Another carrier group is about to sail. For Japan, every aircraft lost is a tragedy. For America, it is a statistic already accounted for, already replaced. Back in the Pacific, the contrast is brutal. On Japanese airfields carved out of coral and jungle, mechanics struggle to keep aging Zeros airworthy. Spare parts are scarce. Fuel is rationed. Engines are cannibalized from damaged aircraft to keep others flying. Every takeoff feels final. American pilots rotate home after tours. They debrief. They train replacements. They pass on lessons learned. Hellcats keep coming. Japan buries pilots. By the time of the Marianas Campaign, the imbalance has become overwhelming. American carriers launch wave after wave of Hellcats. Losses occur, but they are absorbed instantly. Japan launches what it can. The result is the event American pilots later call the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Zeros rise to meet the attackers and are cut down in staggering numbers. Gun cameras capture the destruction in cold clarity. Tracers, explosions, spirals of smoke vanishing into the sea. On American carriers, pilots return with fuel to spare. On Japanese carriers, decks are quiet. The war in the air is no longer competitive. It is industrial. Hellcats are not winning because they are flown by supermen. They are winning because the system behind them is inexhaustible. For every Japanese pilot lost, America produces another aircraft, another pilot, another squadron. For every Hellcat shot down, 2 more arrive. Japan cannot compete with that equation. By late 1944, the Imperial Navy Air Service is no longer a coherent force. Training units are rushed into combat. Pilots are sent up knowing they are unlikely to survive. The Zero, once a symbol of dominance, is now a relic. In America, factories continue to run at full capacity even as newer fighters begin to appear. The Hellcat has already done its job. It has erased the Zero not through elegance or daring, but through volume, survivability, and time. The war in the sky has become a conveyor belt. One side feeds it endlessly. The other bleeds into it. When Laughing stopped October 1944, Western Pacific, dusk, the laughter is gone. Japanese pilots sit silently in briefing huts as maps are unrolled across wooden tables. Faces are younger now, too young, some barely old enough to shave. Their uniforms are clean, their aircraft patched together from whatever parts could be spared. The veterans are gone. In their place are boys who have memorized procedures but never mastered instinct. They listen carefully, nodding at instructions that once would have seemed unnecessary. Avoid Hellcats. Do not climb after them. Do not turn with them. Do not chase. These warnings would have been unthinkable 2 years earlier. Out on the flight line, Zeros wait in the fading light. Their paint is faded, their engines temperamental. Mechanics work quietly, knowing that every aircraft launched may not return. Fuel is measured carefully now. So are expectations. When Hellcats appear overhead, the reaction is immediate. Formations scatter. Pilots dive for cloud cover or turn back toward base. The sky belongs to someone else now. For those who do engage, the outcome is usually brief. Hellcats arrive with speed and altitude, attacking from above, disappearing just as quickly. Japanese pilots fire rarely. They maneuver defensively. They survive seconds longer than expected, and then they don't. The Zero is no longer a weapon of dominance. It is a coffin with wings. Japanese command searches desperately for answers. New aircraft designs are rushed forward. New tactics are proposed. None arrive in time. None can undo what has already been lost. By late 1944, the air war has changed character. The Hellcat is everywhere. American pilots speak of air superiority as a given, not an achievement. Japan begins to look for other ways to fight. Desperation takes shape. Special attack units are formed. Aircraft are loaded not with fuel for return flights, but with explosives. Pilots are told there will be no landing. Kamikaze, it is not born of fanaticism alone, it is born of reality. Japan no longer has the aircraft, the pilots, or the time to contest the sky conventionally. The Hellcat has made that impossible. For American pilots, the shift is unsettling. The enemy no longer fights to win the air war, they fight to die in it. The Hellcat still intercepts them, still shoots them down, but the psychological weight has changed. The war feels darker now, heavier. Japanese pilots no longer laugh at American fighters, they fear them, and fear, once introduced, never leaves. What began as mockery has ended in silence. The Zero still flies, but it no longer defines the sky. The Hellcat does. The fighter that ended an era, August 1945, Pacific Ocean. Aboard a U.S. Navy carrier. Morning. The Hellcats are parked neatly along the flight deck, wings folded, engines silent. They are scarred now, paint chipped, panels replaced, oil stains baked into metal by months of combat. These are not pristine machines. They are survivors. Around them, sailors move with practiced calm. The war is ending. Everyone knows it, even before the official words arrive. Carl Weiss's story ended at a table in America. For Japanese pilots, it ended here, on decks like this, under aircraft like these. When news of Japan's surrender finally reaches the fleet, there is no cheering at first, just stillness. Men stand quietly, looking out over the water. Some remove helmets, others sit where they are. The Hellcat remains where it has always been, ready. It never needed a dramatic final battle. Its war was already won. By the end of World War II, the F6F Hellcat has destroyed more enemy aircraft than any other fighter in naval history. Not because it was beautiful, not because it was elegant, but because it was built for reality. It forgave mistakes. It absorbed damage. It brought pilots home. Japanese pilots, some of the finest aviators of their generation, never truly lost their skill. What they lost was the environment in which that skill mattered. They were trained to duel. America trained to replace. The Hellcat represents that difference perfectly. It did not try to outfly the Zero. It did not try to impress it. It erased it, methodically, repeatedly, without drama. After the war, surviving Japanese pilots speak of the Hellcat with a tone that is neither hatred nor bitterness. It is respect stripped of illusion. They describe an aircraft that appeared suddenly and changed everything. One moment they were masters of the sky. The next, they were targets. American pilots remember the Hellcat differently, as dependable, forgiving, solid, an aircraft that would bring you home even when everything else went wrong. That contrast says everything. Wars are not ended by the best weapon alone. They are ended by the weapon that fits the world as it is. The Zero belonged to an earlier era, one where individual mastery ruled the air. The Hellcat belonged to a new one, where systems, production, and survivability decided victory. When Japanese pilots first laughed at the Hellcat, they were laughing at its shape. They did not yet understand that they were laughing at the future. And the future does not laugh back. It simply arrives.